This decade in Syria has seen fluctuating waves of arbitrary detention, campaigns of different kinds by the main duty bearers, from mass arrests of demonstrators in the early days to mass internment of men, women, and children today. There has been one constant. Tens of thousands of people in Syria are being unlawfully deprived of their liberty. All parties that have held territory since 2011 have subjected civilians to a multitude of detention-related violations as outlined in our report. The government forces arbitrary detention of political opponents, journalists, human rights activists, and demonstrators were both a root cause and a trigger of the conflict. Armed groups and UN-designated terrorist organizations, such as HTS and ISIL, then also started depriving people of their liberty, committing even more heinous violations against them, often with sectarian undertones. Those violations have often been coordinated in order to intimidate perceived political opponents, dissenting civilians and their families. Former detainees who live to tell describe abhorrent detention conditions, not seeing daylight for months, only unclean water to drink. Hundreds of detainees sharing the same overcrowded cell without any toilet, having to sleep sitting, no medical care at all. Upon release, many emerge skeletal and emaciated. They describe torture, being beaten, having nails and teeth pulled out, being forced to hang from one or two limbs for long periods while beaten again, having to write forced confessions or sign documents they were not even allowed to read. They describe executions of fellow detainees without any semblance of a trial, or following unfair trials in government's counterterrorism field military courts, or makeshift proceedings by armed groups and terrorist organizations. It is no exaggeration to say that nearly all Syrians have been victims one way or another. The fate of tens of thousands who were disappeared by Syrian government forces remain unknown. Many are presumed to have died or been executed, while some are believed to be still alive, still held incommunicado in appalling detention conditions in one of the many detention facilities that the Commission has investigated. Hundreds of thousands of family members are still searching for them. The government and other parties are deliberately prolonging their suffering. Their focus has been on concealing rather than investigating crimes committed in detention facilities, as our investigation into mass graves show. This month marks 10 years since protests started in Syria. It is appropriate for us to think of the victims of violations who have suffered unimaginable plight for so long. We need to reflect on how we can better assist them. There must be swift action by the parties and their supporters to immediately cease violations and prevent future ones. Releasing those arbitrarily detained and accounting for the disappeared would be an important first step.